everyone. My name is Justin S. Grant, and I am here interviewing with Adora Crystal Evans. And she is an author, as am I. I've written the book called Business and Spirituality: Secrets of Personal, Professional, and Planetary Evolution. And it's about combining our busy material life with our eternal life and augmenting and bolstering both in the process. And Adora's written a similar book, and I'm very happy to be interviewing with her about it today. So if you would please, Adora, tell us a little bit about yourself and the basis of your book.
Oh, awesome. And I love your book and I love what you're about. We are Soul Tribe and I love that blue background today. That's awesome.
Thank you.
Here's my book. Of course, it comes up opposite on camera, but it's called Majestic Money, the 30-day Femme manifesting game. And so, um, you know, I've been in the self-development industry for a lot of years. I was 18 years old, living in a boarded up home without electricity, when instead of investing in my electricity, I invested in a network marketing company. And in that distributor kit, there was a little cassette tape. And these were the days of Walkman, battery operated Walkmans. And so I was introduced to Jim Rohn and then Tony Robbins and that, and then author after author after author. And that really opened me to the realm of self-development and really set my path on a totally different course. And since that moment though, I wanted to be someone like Jim Rohn or someone who, you know, in that time when I had already lived on my own from the age of 15, I had already been through some things that many women and men, unfortunately, like molestation and different things, I'd already been through some things. And this author, through a book, through an audio book, got into my world and instilled a seed of hope and a commitment to constant and never-ending change and growth. And can I, right? You recognize that. And during that time, I remember thinking, wow, if ever one day I could do this for somebody else, it would be amazing. And so that took me on this whole journey that was a lot like the stock market, you know, up, down, up, down, up, down, even though I thought it was going to be all up. There were a lot of mistakes. But in that journey, I got to do some really awesome things that for me, like I got to be a producer on the Discovery Channel. I got to help facilitate some connections that help put a few people in the movie The Secret. I got to work with celebrities in LA. I got to dance in LA. I got to write for Fashion and Art magazine in Egypt. And all of these things that I got to experience were big dreams for me at some point and seemed really far away from for a small town girl that grew up on welfare with an incredibly, you know, low self-esteem and self-image. And having been through sexual trauma, a lot of women disconnect from themselves, their bodies, their worth, and I believe men as well. And so like all of the techniques that I was learning were awesome. How to sell, how to communicate, how to, you know, do these different things. But the person who had to show up and believe in that and receive it and position myself to manifest these things, the greatest work were things like learning to love myself, healing old stories that had nothing to do with, you know, how do you network with celebrities? How do you go get a job as this? They had nothing to do with that at all. In fact, many of those things that came in came in just, I was in the center of my heart, receiving as spirit, receiving what the universe had for me. And funny enough, I had just small pockets of deep self-love, small pockets of surrendered faith. And I'm talking about that right now because when I was younger, I used to think like people who succeeded or to ever arrive at this place of peace and power and love and vitality and all my dreams, all the contribution, all the stuff I wanted to do, that I would have to get this perfect. Like I would have to really heal all the stories finally and forevermore. And I think that can be overwhelming and quite a daunting task. And the really cool thing about the universe and spirit is you don't have to get it right, even most of the time. If you can just find pockets of self-love, of surrender, of faith, of forgiveness, like that little pocket, the universe, God, spirit, whatever you want to call it, can multiply that and wants to multiply it. It wants to evolve us, grow us. And so even though the book is about, majestic money, because I had a lot of, old beliefs that made it challenging for me to accept large amounts of money consistently or accept a higher standard of living. I had things about feeling ashamed, not worthy, I need to work harder, I'm not working hard, I'm not old enough, I'm not educated enough. I had all these stories. And what I found is that when I was in my heart and when I was honoring myself, I could ask and receive the income. I could ask and receive the experiences, not just money, but all kinds of experiences. And so as I've worked with a lot of women over the years, and I tend to work with a lot of healers, spiritual people that are spiritually driven, and they're entrepreneurs or salespeople, or women awakening to their feminine energy and power. I find that most money problems, relationship problems, willingness to accept, a healthier relationship, a better, more fulfilling job, but willingness to take the risk, they're really self-alignment, self-worth, self-love challenges. So that's one core thing in this book, is that it's really a deep owning of the self. And then the femme manifesting is because, a lot of the things that I learned about manifesting were from beautiful men teaching from a mostly masculine standpoint their best version and interpretation of these beautiful universal laws as they received them and as they were taught by them, or they were taught to me by women who learned from these beautiful men, or were, learning in response to the structure of society and the way society really sets us up. So I believe men and women, we all have masculine and feminine energy inside of us, and both parts are equally important, just as out in nature it's important. But for me, the masculine energy is all about set a goal, go for it, drive for it, bring it home, champion, victory, yes, done, achiever. Yeah, it's big, beautiful energy. And I have a lot of that kind of energy. And the feminine energy is more about, intuition and inklings and slowing down and the imagination and beauty for the sake of beauty. Why do women want fresh flowers? And men may too. I'm not labeling, but I'm just going to speak, so in the feminine is where, especially as a woman, I found myself heavily reliant on my masculine and getting burnt out, sometimes really getting in an all grit, all push, all strong will, versus when I would slip into my feminine, sometimes just because I was exhausted or, you know, something open that drew me there, I noticed that, you know, there was more inspiration, less effort, more like, you know, I always wanted to be a writer. I always wanted to work, you know, I imagined myself working with celebrities and red carpets and glamour at some point. I never
Mhm.
wrote it as a goal, that one,
Mhm.
but there's nothing that I could have done, like what I would have had to do to get myself to LA to try to go manifest a job where I'm working with a designer who dress prints his entire career. You know, all the things I would have had to orchestrate would have required a lot of grit, structure, uh, action. And what actually happened is I was in my heart, happened into a design studio, was petting the fabrics like crazy and oohing and awing on the phone. And the designer happened to be sitting there. And she read my horoscope, and we had a heart to heart connection. And I happened to be living with an actress in LA who could get me into the red carpet events. And so so that's the difference when you're with your masculine and feminine. In order to write a book, I had to get into my masculine and figure out what's the structure of a book. How do you print it on Amazon? How do you, you know, get reviews, like all those things. But the inspiration, the inspired action, that's the receiving of the material. That's the when to bring it out and what exactly I want to go in there. And so for me, for many people, the feminine is just something we're starting to talk about a lot
Mhm.
and
Mhm.
starting to understand. But it is through the feminine, through the body of a woman, like we can look at our nature and go, what does God the masculine look like in his physical nature and gifts? And we can measure, like, these are what naturally most men, they're stronger than women. They're, you know, and I don't mean gender, I'm talking about physically, pound for pound. They usually have more
Mhm.
muscle power unless it's a bodybuilding woman with an unusual amount of
Right.
testosterone, bless, right? So, and that's beautiful. And women, we've proven we can step into those spaces and do anything we want and rely on our, whatever you want to call it. I'm not going into those labels, but the feminine is, you know, the space that, if I look at this physical nature, it's through the body of a woman that spirit comes from other world,
Mhm.
makes its home inside of a
Mhm.
woman, is
Yeah.
woven together inside of a woman, and then the portal of her womb, then boom, this is how a spirit comes from other world into physical reality. It's the portal.
Mhm.
And
Yeah.
so inside of the feminine, there are codes, and uh, there's a deep understanding of how we bring things from the spiritual imagined into physical reality. And so
Mhm.
that's why it's my favorite exploration. The next book I'm writing about is the creation codes of the divine feminine. I'm working on it
Mhm.
right now. And
Wow.
because it's so rich, right? Like
Mhm.
this book is an amazing, I
Mhm.
think it's an amazing gateway for women. And I think that because I've had so many women write me
Mhm.
with what they've manifested, their homes, their cars, their soulmates, but more importantly, the things they let go of, guilt, shame, false
Mhm.
beliefs, and how their hearts are open. And,
Mhm.
you know, like like you, we can go, there's so much more to say and to explore, and
Yeah.
especially when it's something new. It's not new in our bodies, and that's the cool thing. When women and men start listening, it's like, oh yeah, that makes sense. And then our bodies step up to meet that, but it's something that hasn't been practiced as a habit,
Mhm.
or, you know, so
Wow. Wow, that's wonderful. Thanks for sharing. Obviously, you've thought about all of this a lot and experienced everything. And it's really brilliant what you have to offer. So thank you. Yeah, I think we would agree our basic philosophy is that we are all spiritual beings living in physical bodies. So both are very important. You know, the physical represents now and the spiritual represents forever, eternity. And if we can blend the two together, they can both be strengthened. And it's really incredible how you've created something that is specifically tailored to women, because it's true, so much of the world is patriarchal, and from a man's point of view, just because they're the ones there trying to explain and trying to help, and you know, generally they have their hearts in the right place, and that's beautiful. But it's an extraordinary time that we're living through, where women are entering the public sphere in such large numbers, and showing all the unique gifts that they have to offer. Because I can tell you from a man's point of view, it's just very refreshing to hear a different point of view. And obviously men historically have been very inspired by women. So that you are actually taking the inspiration to more mental and spiritual levels is fantastic. So thank you for doing that.
Oh, thank you. And ladies, the people who this in my audience, I love you communicating that. I mean, there are so many beautiful men in the world that are really hungry for this sacred union of the soul and of our universe, and really an appreciation of these things. And that we've lived in a time where it was almost like it's God versus goddess, or it's male versus female, or in order to expand and explore this, we have to vilify men. And that is not what I am about at all.
No.
I think when women get to see a representation of a man that is making space and appreciating the feminine, you know, it really creates a safe, reaffirming space. And so thank you for being who you are and expressing that, because that's a story that we as women get to choose too. We can either choose that the patriarchal society is our enemy, or we can choose, hey, we're in an evolution, and where are we going next together with these beautiful souls that want to go there, you know?
Right. I agree. Well, thank you. So Adora, another thing that intrigued me about your book is you've often discussed how your masculine side is very go, 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 drive, 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 strength, strength, strength. And your feminine side is intuitive and creative. And another key word that really intrigued me that maybe you could expand on is how your feminine side, I believe, is more play oriented. So would you consider that a accurate characterization of what you said in the book? And could you talk to that a bit?
This is such a great, because I have to remind me to say what I have to say about the masculine. So an attribute of the feminine, definitely for me, is very playful. But any man who has been around a woman long enough knows that the moment you think you know a woman, she is shifting again. And so I need to bring up that, you know, there are cycles, just like a woman goes through when she's, you know, still having her period, and is during that time in her life, she goes through cycles of ovulation, of, you know, then letting go of the potential life that was going to be there. And there's a primal cycle that happens in our energy too. And I remember when I first started learning about this, I got a little calendar, and so I could see when I was ovulating and and I know I'm going very personal, probably deeper than you wanted to, Justin, but, but, you know, I would feel like I'm feeling really prowly, like I'm like, every guy, even an asshole, looks amazing right now, right? And then I'd be like, oh, I bet I'm ovulating, and sure enough, I'd be ovulating, which is very wise for a woman to know, and also a male in relationship with a woman, because
Right.
if you're in relationship with a woman and your woman's feeling really fiery and more aggressive and initiating, and that's probably the time that she's ovulating, and what she'll want from you then is very different than what she'll want from you when she's feeling her premenstrual cycle and she's weepy maybe and a little more emotional and sensitive and she's wanting to be held. And for men that can be so confusing, because you're like, wait, last week you know were really very like passionate, and this week you're like this dainty little flower that I have to be very sensitive with, like, what is going on. So you know, the nature of the feminine is pretty wild in that way, that it's not straightforward, it's pretty cyclical. And you know, knowing that even in working, like if a woman has a project, or she's going to go break up with someone or own her voice or get on a dating site or something like that, well, get on a dating site, be careful if you're ovulating. Be careful if you're ovulating. It may not be, but when you need courage, right, is there, she's going to have more of that go get it kind of energy flowing in her. And then when she's needing to let go of something, let go of a relationship, grieve something, let go of a habit, it's like, for me, when I'm about to be on my time of the month, it is like this divine magnifying glass. Anything that I haven't been really paying attention to that's emotional to me, it's going to just bring it to the surface like a magnet. And that could be, you know, 1 month that, oh, I'm not sure about this relationship and I'm questioning, should I let it go? Another month it could be, I'm so grateful for this relationship and I just need to release this in the feeling of tears. So, you know, I say that to say that to label the feminine, which I have done and I do for the purpose of illustration and to try to help us understand it better, it's like, it's shifting a lot, and it's a little more wild, and it's a little more what is happening right now, you know. It's almost like, I heard someone say this, I don't know if I agree with it 100%, but it feels good in this context. It's like the masculine in us is like the head, the logic, the do this, and the feminine is like the heart. And so the heart, you know, can be forgiving, you know, when the head would say no, like, don't do that again. Again, men have great hearts, so masculine has a great heart, a gladiator heart. So I'm not 100% on board with that metaphor, but I think you get what I'm saying, is that it's wild and shifty. And for me, it is when I am, I have quite a playful energy, and I love play. And I find that when I'm in my feminine, which means to me surrendered, relaxed, in tune with my senses, in tune with the moment, very present to the moment and the senses, then often play is pretty natural, you know. It's one of the states that's pretty natural, and it represents, like, you know, I'm in a joyous place, and that's not always the space, you know. If I'm at a funeral and I'm in my feminine, it doesn't necessarily mean I'm just going to start wanting to party or dance, or, you know what I mean?
Yeah. Incredible. Well, thanks again for sharing all that. And yeah, I think it's important for women to hear that it's not only okay, but can be beneficial to be in that playful side. And also for a man, it's wonderful to get that unique point of view, because as a man, I'm very much more driven and don't have much time for play, and it's not that fun, and not necessarily that creative. So it's wonderful that you you express that and articulate that so well. So thank you.
Well, and a little bit more about that. I know you had a question, but
Mm.
I remember talking with this young couple, and we were laughing so much because they were really going to a more serious place and very conscious, but young, and working through their relationship. And when I started talking about this ovulating part, I said something kind of cheeky, like when she's ovulating, she may be like, throw me against the wall or pull. And then you try that a couple weeks later, and she's so offended, and like, how could you? And a lot of times guys, when they find a system that works, they just repeat that system, like, okay, that works. We're going to do that again and again, which when dealing with the feminine, you can't do that. You can't just, it's about being present, and that, communication,
Flow,
signals, and, and so if a man can understand that, and also if a woman can understand, hey, he's not having all these emotional shifts necessarily, or again, I don't want to get too far into genders because they're fluid, and I think all kinds of couples are beautiful. But it's like what you said, that's not a challenge. It's actually part of our power. It's part of our ability to let go of things.
Wow.
And I had another really great girlfriend who used to resist her emotions because she didn't want to be a stereotype of like, I get PMS. So if she started to cry or to feel, she thought it was silly, and so she would just push it away. And she ended up with terrible cramps and cramping, like where she would be just almost bedridden. And then when we had this conversation about, in certain tribes, when women were on their time of the month, they would gather in tents, and they were known to bring in the prophecies and the prophetic word for the whole town, because they're so close to that life energy and the flow of it and their emotional state. And it was a really honored, sacred time. And when she like kind of processed that and started allowing her emotions to reveal whatever they're wanting to reveal to her, her cramping went away to almost nothing. Yeah.
Wow. Right. And there must be a counterpart with men too, because I'm going to reveal a little secret about men, and that's that they can be pretty moody too.
Yeah. Oh, I know. But I love that you're revealing. Yeah. They have their own type.
So if men suppress any part of their nature, they're going to get some sort of cramp, maybe more mental than physical, or something like that. But yeah, that's fascinating. So I do have another question. So can you talk to our listeners a bit about some of the specific and simple daily tasks that are available and explained in the book that help manifest goals, dreams, financial assets, etc.?
Yeah. So I'll give a couple of my very favorite, because
Great.
the book is a 30-day game. For those of you that don't know, Justin knows, but and so each day there's a different task, or it's called Light Your Feminine Fire, something to help you sink more in. So I'll give you a couple of my favorite, but I'm going to take a drink of water first.
Great. You have lots of fire today, don't you?
Yeah,
I love it.
Thank you. I had a beautiful interview with my friend Jade, who is a soul sister, and we both dressed up for each other. She had her cute, you'll see the video, but it was so fun.
Yeah.
So that got me going early this morning. So one thing is there's a chapter called Cleopatra and her temple. And
Mm-hmm.
I've always been drawn to Egypt so much
Yeah.
that I lived there. I
Wow.
married someone who's Egyptian. My daughter is half Egyptian.
Wow. Mm-hmm.
And that fascination started at like 18.
Mm-hmm.
And I learned about Cleopatra that she had an entire room dedicated to makeup. And she had another room dedicated to bathing. And the reason she had the room dedicated to makeup is that she considered makeup and putting on makeup to be an act of magic. And the
Mm-hmm.
reason she considered it to be an act of magic is a version of this, that she
Mm-hmm.
believed our bodies are the sacred temple that God lives in and dwells in and expresses from.
Mm-hmm.
And that just like in many religions and places, there are ways to set the temple and prepare it so that God can move freely and inhabit, that as she was putting on makeup, she was setting and adorning her temple.
Mm-hmm.
And
Mm-hmm.
so, some things about that are, one, that if you don't like putting on makeup, totally okay. Not everybody is into that. I work with a lot of spiritual women, and some women, they're no makeup, grow all the hair, do all the things. And all of those are beautiful and speak to, what calls to each woman. But the point is the same, that this body that we're inhabiting, male or female, it
Mm-hmm.
is the place of the Spirit of God or infinite intelligence. Now, it's
Indeed.
expressed as the identity of Justin S. Grant, Adora Crystal Evans, Mother Teresa, Beyonce, and her beautiful booty. um, but it's all, it's still the Spirit of God indwelling this place. And so, when you realize that, especially in our society where unfortunately we're dealing with things like human trafficking and the Me Too
Mm-hmm.
movement, and then
Mm-hmm.
add to that, some of the shaming that media has done and we've done as a society to what, what makes a woman beautiful and sexually desirable and therefore
Mm-hmm.
valuable. When I
Mm-hmm.
was 15, 13, I asked for a thigh master with Suzanne
Mm-hmm.
Summers. It was an exercise
Yeah.
because then having a gap between your thighs was sexy and skinny was sexy.
Mm-hmm.
Now, thank goodness, because I'm 5'2" and I have some curves, thanks to Beyonce and Kim Kardashian and all that, curves are honored. But again, there's something here when you've got, you go to Miami and women are putting butt implants in. You go to LA and women are putting butt implants in because of the Kardashians. But you also have another sect of women that are trying to get rid of, make it skinnier, look a certain way. And when we disconnect from our bodies in that way, it's hard to receive, one, to even divine the manifesting signal out of the temple. If
Mm-hmm.
you're going, I hate you, ugly, ugly, get skinnier. If you're always like
Mm-hmm.
not honoring your body, which a lot of women, are in, comparing themselves to where they were 5 years ago or to the woman next to them or to their
Mm-hmm.
fears of the future.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm all about taking care of myself, so I get it. But again, when we're out of our bodies, we're disconnected, one, from the place that we divine from as God expressed in
Wow.
these bodies. And then the
Mm-hmm.
other thing that happens is when you're warring with your body, you're not in communion, you're not in communication. And so if you're not in a good communication, it's going to be really hard to hear those intuitive inklings or those messages of your gut telling you no this way, your womb going or yes go that way, or your heart, your energy, you'll be all up here and in discord, right? So so a simple thing to do to start to manifest more and to ground into that temple is one, to commit that, you know what, this is the house of the living God, or whatever you want to call it. And
Goddess.
Right, goddess. And I approach that as the gift and with total reverence. And I'm going to, it's a commitment to, I'm going to talk differently to this body. And if you catch yourself, because habits happen, just that's not how we do this anymore. I'm going to love this body. And there are a couple of scenarios that I use in the book that can help too. Is one, if you can imagine a little child, you know, like I think of my daughter, and there were a lot of times that I was feeling things when she was younger. And I think, if this were her right now, would I want her believing this about herself? What would I want her to believe? What would I want her to feel? And then I'd shift my thoughts. So if you can think of you as a child or your own child or a little child, and then approach with that same kind of love and appreciation, that's a good place. And then one of my very favorite rituals that I still do this regularly, and it's very profound, is in honor of that new agreement and that new commitment. You can, you know, prepare your hot bath or your hot shower. A lot of places don't even have baths anymore. What's wrong with this world? No, I will not buy a house without a bath, and it's a must. But shower or bath. And I know we're in, you know, COVID and people are staying home more, so you may not have the honor or the ability to get really private, you know, with yourself. Ideally, if you can have your own private time, light a candle, play some music, dim the lights, and then when you're bathing, when you're showering, men and women can do this, you know, as you're washing your hands, saying, out loud is my preference. I'll give you the success option in a moment, but out loud saying, you know what, I love and appreciate you, hands. Thank you for all the people you've let me touch, all the writing I've gotten to do, all the trees I got to climb, right? Arms, thank you so much. And with every part of your body, you know, everywhere that you can touch, give a specific, special I love you acknowledgement, and kind of sanctify that temple. And what's going to happen is a really intimate, beautiful soul retrieval level work is going to happen. Your body is now going to drink in that energy of harmony. And I mean, your body works every day to make sure you have another day here in this physical plane. It's loving you, fighting for you, whether you love it or not, right? So when you bring that in, you're bringing together that deep recognition and harmony, but also the vibration, you know, being that we're so much water and we're given dominion over this body. You are just flooding it with this vibration of like love and peace and surety and connection. And from that place, we attract in everything that we're looking to attract. It's like this is the vibrational state that is your base. And so really worth, you know, doing.
Wow. Wonderful. Okay. Well, thank you, Adora. Well, I think that's been an amazing overview of the book, and you've given our listeners a little taste of some of the daily exercises that are offered in the 30-day plan. So tell us, where can we find out more about you online and find the book and all that?
Awesome. Yay. Okay. So the book is on Amazon. I'll show it to you again so you can see the crown, but it's
Beautiful. Yeah.
Majestic Money, the 30-day Femme Manifesting Game.
Mm-hmm.
And then online, so in November, depending on when you watch this, if you go to majesticmoneygame.com, and then there's a / it's a little bit funny, but it's Majestic Manifesting using, so your feminine energy 3. I'll write it out, but Majestic Money, MMUFE3, weird link. I'm doing a 3-day manifest using your feminine energy free workshop, just to really help people get into that vortex. If you see this later, then I would still go to majesticmoneygame.com, or find me on Facebook. Definitely, you can find me on Facebook, and I'll find a way to get you the replays or get you in what's going on there.
Wonderful. Okay, well, thanks so much for sharing. I think this has been very beneficial to me for certain, and for all of our present and future listeners. So thank you, Adora Crystal Evans, and look forward to hearing more about it soon.
Justin S. Grant, thank you so much for holding the space for yourself, for business and spirituality and our full expression on this planet, and for men and women being fully alive in what we're doing. I appreciate you, and it's been a great time.
Yeah, one of my favorite quotes from the Bible is life more abundantly. So the more abundantly applies to both the material and the spiritual world. So let's synthesize it all together to everyone's benefit. All right. Thank you. Bye, everyone. Thank you, Adora.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye-bye.